Hey Goblin, you've been really practicing those war drums.
I'll bring the generic Goblin noise!
Hey gang, using the promo code MTGMudsta, one word, all caps, will get you 10% off orders of $10 or more at Flipside Gaming, Original Magic Art, and orders of singles at Multizone. If they don't have what you're looking for, you could check out TCGPLAYER and use my affiliate link to help support the channel. Looking for a way to bling out your deck and not spend a fortune? Alter Sleaze can help with that, and you can help with the channel at the same time by using my affiliate link. Or, if you're looking to join the Goblin Gang, you can always support me through Patreon. Hey gang, and welcome back. Today's game was filmed through Discord, and unfortunately, once more, I forgot to record opening hands. I am playing my Titania deck, with Nick joining me playing Stitcher Geralf, Max playing as Obeka, Brute Chronologist, and Martin playing Ghen, Arkham Weaver. Martin wins the die roll and starts us off. Martin plays a Plains and passes. I play a Snow-Covered Forest. Nick plays an Island. Max plays a Mountain. Martin plays a Reflecting Pool and taps both lands for Lightning Greaves. I play a Thespian Stage, passing to Nick. Nick plays an Island and casts Sky Diamond. Max plays an Island and casts Sundial the Infinite, which is basically his commander but on an artifact. Martin plays a Scrubland, passing. I play Mouth of Renome and pay 3 for Elemental Bond. Nick plays an Island and casts Solemn Simulacrum. He goes to find a basic, passing a Max. Max plays a Dimir Aqueduct, and with the bounce trigger on the stack, activates his Sundial to end his turn. Martin plays a tap Misfill Plains. He wishes he had access to more of his colors, but apparently he's only playing mono white. I play a Snow-Covered Forest and pass. Nick plays an Unmatching Island, which upsets me doubly so because it's also white bordered. He then casts Heuristic Study and passes. Max plays a Thriving Isle, naming red as it comes in tapped. He then plays an Apprentice Necromancer and moves to his end step, and in response, ends his turn with the Sundial. Martin draws and plays a Court of Ambition in his main phase. He becomes the Monarch and draws at the end of turn. I play Snow-Covered Forest, and despite having no lands in my yard, cast Titania. Nick gets a draw from my inability to pay for the Heuristic Study tax, and I then draw as she enters thanks to the Elemental Bond trigger, and I pass to Nick. Nick continues his shame train as he calls it, playing another white bordered island. He then swings a Solemn at Martin, dealing 2 and becoming the Monarch. Nick then plays out a Thran Dynamo, and draws at the end of turn. Max plays a tap Path of Ancestry, and then pays the 1 extra as he casts his commander. He swings the Necromancer at Nick, who flashes out a Voracious Great Shark to block. Martin has his Court trigger on his upkeep, and we all just lose 3 rather than discard a card. Martin then plays a Plains, and pays 2 for Soul Ring to pay for the study tax. My turn has a Snow-Covered Forest come into play, and I then cast the newly added Garruk's Uprising. It comes in, and I draw a card, and I then move to combat. I decide it's not worth trading my commander for the Shark, and just pass to Nick. Nick plays Geralf in his main phase, and goes at me with the Shark. I take 5, and Nick then passes, drawing at the end of turn. Max draws, plays an Island, and passes. On Martin's upkeep, Max and I take 3 to the Court, while Nick discards Wonder. Martin then plays another Plains, and puts to stack Wrath of God. Max responds, activating his commander to end the turn, and Nick then decides to cast Mystic Confluence, picking the counter mode twice and the draw mode once. The spell is then countered, with Nick drawing a card. I then use Unravel the Aether on Nick's study, which lets him draw a card, and then shuffles the enchantment into his library. I draw and play a Snow-Covered Forest. I tap most of my mana for a World Breaker, exiling Thran Dynamo on cast, and then as it enters, draw 2, 1 from each enchantment. I then pass, and Matilda yells at me for not attacking. What do you want? Nick plays an Island, and then casts a Worn Power Stone, which comes in tapped. He goes at Max with a Shark, dealing 5 and passing. Max plays an Exotic Orchard for his land drop, and then passes. Martin plays a tap Godless Shrine and remembers his court trigger. We all decide to discard a card, and Martin then passes. I play a Wayward Swordtooth, which as it enters, draws me 1 from each of my enchantments. I then play Tectonic Edge and a Dust Bowl as my lands for turn, and then pay 3 for Reclamation Sage. As it enters, I blow up the Solemn Simulacrum, and Nick draws a card. Moving to combat, I swing Titania and the Worldbreaker at Nick. Before moving to blocks though, Nick activates Geralf and we resolve the ability. He only hits creatures from me and gets to put 4 +1/+1 counters onto a zombie token he creates. Nick then uses Rapid Hybridization on the Worldbreaker and blocks Titania. He does have 1 splashover damage from Titania having Trample from Garruk's Uprising. I also get to draw a card from the token coming in on my side, and I become the Monarch, passing and drawing at the end of turn. Nick plays an island and casts Conduit of Ruin in his main phase. He tutors for a large Eldrazi to put on top of his library, putting Breaker of Armies out for all to see. He then hits me for 5 with a Flying Shark, and becomes the Monarch. It's at this point he realizes with his drawing at the end of turn, he'd rather something else on top, and we say it's okay, so he goes to find a Void Winnower, putting it on top instead. Max draws, and plays out Ethereum Horn Sorcerer. He cascades into a Felwar Stone, passing. Martin's court trigger goes off, and we each decide to lose 3 life. We then see Kambal come in his main phase, and he puts the Greaves onto him. Moving to combat, Kambal hits Nick, and Martin becomes the Monarch, passing and drawing. I play Avenger of Zendikar in my main phase, drawing 2 as the Avenger comes in, and then gaining 9 plant tokens. I play out 2 lands, a Snow-Covered Forest, and Crystal Vein, giving my plant tokens 2 +1/+1 counters. I then hit Martin for 5 with a Wayward Swordtooth, becoming the Monarch, and drawing at the end of turn, before discarding down to 7. Nick plays an island, and casts Scourge of Fleets. He has his opponents bounce all the creatures with toughness of 9 or less, which is everything. He then goes to combat, heading at me for 13, some of which is Commander. He becomes the Monarch, and then plays out Traumacratus, and passes. Max draws, and plays a Mountain. He recasts the Ethereum Horn Sorcerer once more, and cascades. This time he hits a Rakdos Signet. And then resolves the Scry from his Path trigger. He bottoms the card, and passes turn. Martin's upkeep has his court trigger making me and Max discard a card, while Nick takes the loss of 3 life. Martin then plays a tap Nomad Outpost, and taps 6 mana to get him a Sunbird's Invocation. Once that's resolved, he recasts Kambal. He whiffs unfortunately from the Sunbird's trigger, and then gears up the Orzhov Drainer with the Greaves, and passes to me. I draw and play Castle Garenbrig. I then recast the Wayward Swordtooth, which as it enters, draws me 2 cards from my enchantments. I then activate the castle to make 6 green mana that can only be used on creatures, and tap 1 more to recast my commander. She then enters, and I resolve her ETB trigger, bringing back a Snow-Covered Forest, and then drawing 2 cards. I then play a Snow-Covered Forest from my hand as my land for turn, and pay 0 for a Zurin Orb. This has Kambal drain me for 2. I then sacrifice a Snow-Covered Forest to the orb, gaining 2 life, and making a 5/3 elemental token with Titania. With the token entering, it draws me 2 cards. I then do it again, gaining 2, making an elemental, and drawing 2. I do it a 3rd time, followed by a 4th time, then a 5th time, then a 6th time, and then a 7th. And even as I'm watching it, I gotta ask, when will this end? My 8th time does seem to be my last though, and I cast Gaia's Touch, getting drained for 2. This lets me play an extra Snow-Covered Forest because of it, and I sacrifice the Touch for 2 green, and tap my remaining mana. This lets me cast a Woodland Bellower, drawing 2 as it enters, and then going to find a green 3-drop or less that isn't legendary. My cat Matilda weighs in on what I should find, but I don't roll with backseat gaming. Sounds like a yes. I grab and put to field a Springbloom Druid, sacrificing a land. This gets me another elemental token, drawing 2, and then I go to find 2 basics for the field tapped. I then pass to Nick, discarding down to 7. Nick plays an Inventor's Fair for turn, and casts an Oblivion Sower. He exiles Martin's top 4, and hits a Cave of Koilos, which Nick represents with a reminder card from a booster. Nick then plays out Thassa, and he passes turn. At the end of turn, Max activates the Sorcerer's ability to put it back to his hand. Max draws and recasts the Aetherhorn Sorcerer. This time he cascades into a Treacherous Urge, and picks Nick's hand to reveal from. He steals Arcanus from Nick's hand, who has haste as he comes in. Max then passes, and with the sacrifice trigger going onto the stack, Max responds and uses the Sundial to end the turn and save Arcanus. On Martin's upkeep, with his court trigger going onto the stack, Nick and I lose 3 life, while Max discards a card to it. Martin then plays a Swamp, and he casts a Blasphemous Act, which will wipe the board. He gets a Sunbird's trigger first, and puts out a Ghostly Prison. The board is then wiped, and Martin then casts a Karavik the Merciless, and gets another Sunbird's trigger. This time he puts Curse of Vengeance and sticks it onto me. Karavik then gets some new boots, and goes at Nick, and connects, which has Martin become the Monarch. Martin then passes, and draws at the end of turn. I cast Soul Ring, and Martin deals 1 to Max with Karavik. I then sacrifice my Crystal Vein to help pay for Titania, and Martin deals 5 to me with the Karavik trigger. I then draw 2 as she enters, and bring back a land. It's the Crystal Vein, and I sacrifice a Force to the orb, gaining 2 life, and then making an elemental. It draws me 2 cards as it enters, and I do it again, then once more. Following this, I sacrifice my Crystal Vein for 2 colorless and make another elemental, drawing 2 more. Using one of the floating colorless and tapping a green, I cast Life's Legacy and sacrifice an elemental to draw 5. Martin deals 2 to me with Karavik's trigger. And once that's finished, and once I'm finished drawing, I then cast Nature's Claim to blow up Sunbird's Invocation, and Martin deals 1 to me with Karavik. I then pass to Nick, and discard down to 7, and wishing that I'd played Reliquary Tower as a land for turn. Nick scries with Thassa and bottoms a card. He plays a Tectonic Edge for his land drop, and drops a Steel Hellkite onto the stack. This lets Martin deal 6 to Max with a Karavik trigger, and Nick then casts Lightning Greaves, which has Martin dealing 2 to Nick with Karavik. Nick then equips them with the Dragon, and pays 2 to attack Martin, who takes the hit. Nick then pays 1 to activate the Hellkite, and blows up all the 1-drops on Martin's side of the board before passing turn. Max plays a Noble Palace, and casts Leyline of Anticipation. This lets Martin's Karavik deal 4 to Nick, and Max passes. At the end of turn, Nick uses the Tectonic Edge to blow up Martin's Nomad Outpost. Martin's upkeep has Max and I discard a card, while Nick loses 3 to the court trigger. Martin then plays a Plateau for his land for turn, and then casts his commander, Ghen, Arcanum Weaver. He swings Karavik at Nick for 5, who takes the hit. Martin then moves the Greaves over to his commander, passing. I play Nykthos as my land drop, and activate it for 4 green. 3 of it gets me a Crucible of Worlds, and Martin deals 3 to Nick. I then play out Azusa, and Martin takes out Nick with the Karavik trigger. I then sacrifice Nykthos, gaining 2 life, and making an elemental token, which draws me 2 as it enters. I then play it from my yard with the Crucible and Azusa, and activate it, making 5 green this time, and then sacrificing it again. I gain 2 more life, make an elemental, and draw 2. I then replay it once more from the yard thanks to Azusa and the Crucible, and activate it to go up to a total of 8 green mana. I use some of that mana for Splendid Reclamation, and Martin has Karavik deal 4 to me. Max also decides to punish me by casting Rakdos Charm and exiling my yard. Once that's done, I sacrifice another few lands, gaining life, and drawing cards as I go. I then play Exploration, and Martin deals 1 to me. I then play Nykthos again, making even more green, and some of that goes into Nissa Vital Force. This has me taking 5 from Karavik, and once she resolves, I uptick Nissa to untap the Nykthos and reactivate it again. I then cast a Natural Order and sacrifice a token, with Martin dealing 4 to Max with Karavik. Unfortunately, Max counters it with Forceful Denial, and Martin deals 5 more to Max with Karavik. Max then gets to cascade into something though, and we see Max resolving Factor Fiction. This has Martin dealing 4 to me with Karavik, and I give Max the piles of Chaos Warp and 4 other cards. Max takes the Chaos Warp, and I then pass, discarding down to 7. Max plays a tap Myriad Landscape, and using Encore, brings back the Amphin Mutineer. It enters, and another token copy comes in as well, with one exiling Karavik and the other exiling Azusa, and giving us a 4/3 token instead. Max then goes to combat, swinging 1 token at me. He doesn't have to swing the other one at Martin because of some weird ruling with Ghostly Prison not allowing Max to attack. Maybe a judge could answer why this happens in the comments, but apparently it makes sense. Max then passes, and loses the last Encore token at the end of turn. Martin then activates Ghen at the end of turn, sacrificing Ghostly Prison to swap it for a Sunbird's Invocation from his graveyard. Martin's upkeep has the court trigger going off, while he's the Monarch, and Max and I discard 2 cards. Martin then plays a Bloodstained Mire, losing 1 to find a Badlands. Curse of Bloodletting then gets attached to Max, and Martin resolves his Sunbird's Invocation trigger, put to stack Slash the Ranks. This hoses my board of Elementals sadly in Nissa. Rakdos' Signet then resolves, with Martin whiffing on the Sunbird's Invocation, and follows up with casting a Queen Marquesa. Martin then casts Rings of Bright Hearth from that Sunbird's trigger, and he passes, drawing at the end of turn. I draw and play a Windswept Heath, losing 1 and getting an Elemental token. I draw 2 as it enters, and then sadly fail to find. I activate Nykthos for 4, and sacrifice it to gain 2 life and make an Elemental token. I draw 2 of my 9 remaining cards, and then replay Nykthos. I cast an Eternal Witness, returning to hand the Splendid Reclamation, and then reactivate Nykthos for 7 green. I recast the Reclamation, bringing back a bunch of lands. Sadly, the Field of Dead doesn't see 7 differently named lands, and does nothing. I then sacrifice 3 lands, gaining 6 life and making 3 more elementals, and then drawing 6 more cards, leaving only 1 card left. I cast Burgeoning, and then a Concordant Crossroads. I move to combat, swinging everything at Martin once I add the appropriate amount of newly made elementals. Martin blocks Titania with Marquesa, and Ghen with the Witness. This has him taking 32, which isn't enough to take him out. I then realize I become the Monarch because of this, and draw at the end of my turn my last card in my library. At the end of turn as well, Max flashes out Nevin Jarl's disc. Max draws and activates the disc, wiping the board of most things, and pretty much all but taking me out of this game. Martin draws for turn, and plays a tap Path of Ancestry. He then brings back Ghen. Once his command is resolved, Martin casts Torment of Scarabs on Max, and passes. I lose as I fail to draw, but we still move through my phases as you normally would, I just don't have any say in it. Max responds at the end of that turn, cracking his landscape to find 2 basics. Max draws, and discards Elvish Dreadlord to the Torment of Scarabs. He encores the Elvish Dreadlord, making only 1 token of it sadly. He swings it at Martin, and Martin blocks with Ghen. Max then passes, and draws at the end of turn from being the Monarch, due to it being passed to the next active player. Martin's turn has him casting a Court of Ire, before recasting his commander. He gets to scry from using the path, and he passes, drawing at the end of turn from being the Monarch because of the court. On Max's upkeep, he has to resolve the Torment trigger and loses 3 life. He then moves to combat, and before declared attackers, casts Cauldron Dance. He brings from his yard a Banshee of the Dread Choir, and swings it at Martin. And Martin blocks again. Max's second main phase has him dropping a Bajuka Bog, and exiling Martin's graveyard, and passing. Martin's upkeep has the court trigger hitting the stack, but Max casts Glorious End in response. This ends Martin's turn, and we move to Max's. Max draws, and it's not an answer, so he moves to his end step and loses. Game review time. So yes, I should have done a better job with the opening hands. I just have so much going on and there's really no excuse, but I do keep forgetting. As for plays, I do think we were probably a little bit too willy-nilly once Karavik was out, since a lot of people were taking extra damage as we were casting spells. It might have been easier for Nick to stick around for an extra turn or two and be able to deal with Martin than having pushed forward with my plan. It was also very timely for Max to have that Rakdos charm to exile my graveyard, because I think if he hadn't, I probably would have won. At that point, I'd been digging super hard to go and find Concordant Crossroads, and was very ready to sacrifice all of my lands to make 5/3 elemental tokens.